Interesting, said Typhus, as arcs of psychic energy pulsed inwards towards the station master. What have you done to me? Shouted the man, panic finally breaking through his ultramarine discipline. Spittle foamed at the corners of his mouth, flew from his lips, and spotted his environment suit. Done? I haven't done anything, said Typhus. This is not one of my ailments. Someone else is doing this to you. I wonder who. Shall we see? The portmaster retched. The death guard stepped back from him as he went onto all fours and vomited up black clots of blood. Damn you all, he choked. It's a little too late to threaten us with that, said Typhus. The portmaster's teeth locked, and then he grunted in agony. He fell to the floor, convulsing. His arms moved in uncontrollable spasms, throwing themselves into angular poses Typhus found amusing. His feet jiggled, his knees locked. He threw back his head, shaking and moaning, until a great seizure had him arcing his back so hard his spine snapped with a loud, wet crack. His thighs shattered. Shards of pink, wet bone pushed themselves out from his garments. Pearls of yellow fat dribbled onto the floor. Bloody pus pouring from his choking throat, the portmaster twitched. He was still alive and moaning as his body folded itself almost perfectly in half. Under normal circumstances, he would have died. But Grandfather Nurgle is kind, and wishes all those who are afflicted by his gifts to fully enjoy the experience, and so the man's soul remained confined within his body. His eyes rolled madly, even as they were clouded with cataracts and sank in upon themselves. His lips split, and his tongue turned black and fell from his mouth to writhe away like a salt-bathed slug. Stinking slurry pooled around him. His bowels leaked, his bladder inflated and burst. Still, the man lived. A spectacle of rapid decay played out before Typhus's eyes, and he watched fascinated while the sounds of fighting drew away from the command block, down the access ways to the hangars where the last few areas of resistance lingered. A greasy slick of sorcery clung to the officer. The sheer variety of death Nurgle meted out was a glory in itself, and this was the finest Typhus had witnessed in some time. The portmaster's skin yellowed and sank into itself. His ripening gut distended with the gases of rot and split. Like rapidly inflated balloons, his intestines wormed themselves out from under his shirt, where they remained purple in a full moment, beautiful in their translucency. Then they deflated back into black twists of hard matter, leaving the portmaster's skin as a wrinkled, leaking sack. Black and purple bloomed across his face and hands. His body became a glorious sunset of lividity. His environment suit, so prettily presented only moments ago, was now stained black with corpse leakage, furrowed with mold, and split along the seams. In a minute, the man looked to have been dead a week. In 2 minutes, a month. And yet, he still lived. Typhus bent closer to him, the bony vents of his armor puking thick vapor. The buzz of the destroyer hive sawed loudly at the movement, demanding to be set free. But still Typhus disregarded its pleas. The first captain of the Death Guard leaned on his man-reaper and peered down at the dead, yet living man, as well as his Terminator plate and vast bulk would permit. His curiosity fully engaged. You are truly blessed by Nurgle. Such decay, such color, such fertile ground for life you have become. Know this, little man. Few of your kind experience such exquisite extinctions, and yet fewer still are permitted to see the cornucopia of rebirth your mortal shells permit. You truly are favored. The corpse's jaw clicked open and shot upon tendons dried hard. You have fortitude too. You wish to speak? Then speak with the Father of life and death in the eternal garden. You have impressed me, his living herald. Tell him Typhus finds you worthy. Perhaps it is not over for you. A slight whisper scratched out of the man's knotted throat, his soul speaking to Typhus. Kill me, he managed. Mercy. You have had your allotment of mercy for today. Typhus stood again. Perhaps you are not worthy after all. A movement in the stomach of the dead man drew Typhus's attention. The outlines of spread horns pressed onto the rubberized cloth of the portmaster's environment suit, piercing the moldering fabric and allowing a boiling swell of finger-length maggots to escape. My, Typhus said. The day grows more interesting. The horns emerged onto the dying light of the command block, followed by the bald, sacrilegious head of a demon imp, dripping with rotten blood, as the foetid liquids of decomposition drew near. The imp spoke. I have words for you, Lord Typhus, words from the manse. Is that so? Said Typhus, answering the thing. A moment, said the Nurgling. This form is unbefitting. Starveling, thin arms tore apart the last of the uniform, and the creature began to frantically stuff its mouth with anything it could get its hands upon. Scraps of gut, writhing maggots, strips of cloth, all went into its capricious maw, and was shredded on needle-sharp teeth. The man moaned, a tomb's gate scraping, yet he would still not die. The Nurgling grew fatter and fatter as it ate more of the portmaster, mouths appearing in its flanks, a huge one across its belly. Scraps rolled towards it from the dead bridge crew, globules of blood at first, then gobulets of flesh, until limbs and finally the entire corpse was drawn towards it. The creature continued to stuff itself, but the larger remains would not fit, and so they softened up like wax and fire, turning the same green as the Nurgling's skin, and ran up onto the imp's body, where it joined with it directly. The Nurgling belched loudly. Excuse me, it said, and it split open like an overripe fruit.